Good morning, everybody, and welcome into the Farzy Show here at the Steven Singer Studios. My name is Marc Farzetta. Happy draft day in Philadelphia and across the NFL and all the NFL cities and across the globe for anyone that might be an NFL fan. This is a glorious day for the NFL. Today is football season. Tomorrow is football season. Saturday is football season. And a lot of people are excited. You know who's not excited? Most people in Philadelphia, unfortunately. I threw out a poll yesterday, and I'll give you more details, but it basically gauged people's excitement, gauged people's emotions going into the draft with Howie Roseman, the Eagles, and Jeffrey Lurie and all that fun stuff. And I'll just say this, right out of the gate, not very excited. Not very excited. Not very optimistic either. And I'll get into my own little definition here of my feeling going into it, but that's one thing we'll definitely kick around today, people's emotions. I will try to will into the atmosphere my own emotion. I will try to will into the atmosphere my own desire for what the Eagles should do in this draft. And some people were against me last year when I liked Justin Jefferson. I wanted to take Justin Jefferson in the first round, and man, that made me look good. Not to brag, but I wasn't alone in that category. But I certainly was not excited about Jalen Reagor. I think Jalen Reagor's gonna have a fine NFL career, and good for him. But he's not going to have a Justin Jefferson career, which is why you should have taken Justin Jefferson. So out of the revisionist history for a lot of people, bottom line is they missed on the receiver they were supposed to take. I believe this year, and I'll tell you this immediately, this year Devonta Smith is the guy they have to take. Now, I understand that a lot of people are in the category right now of he weighs 166 pounds. He can't play in the NFL. Well, somehow he managed to play at Alabama. And, there's some pretty good players that play in the SEC. I don't know if you heard about that. I know we're not the biggest college football town in the country or anything like that, but he played at Alabama. He took some big hits. He played last year. All right. He's played a pretty damn good NFL. He's played a pretty damn good college career also. And you also saw quotes come out where he's excited to play with Jalen Hurts if he gets that opportunity to do that again because they were teammates at Alabama. I want Devonta Smith, and I think that if you're going to move back, and this is the only name on my list. I've mentioned guys for you guys. I've mentioned J.C. Horn. I've mentioned Patrick Surtain. I've mentioned for you when we've talked about Kwity Paye, for instance. Those are guys that would be good on the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think they will be good in the NFL. But the guy I'm most excited about, the guy that if I'm sitting next to Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie, sitting between them, and they actually would look to me for advice, big mistake. But if they look to me for advice about this one particular thing, and maybe last year with Justin Jefferson, hey guys, Devonta Smith, let's not make this dumb. All right, let's make the easy decision here. Will he be there at 12? It's very possible that he will be there at 12. But here's the big story: 10 is the Cowboys, 11 is the Giants, 12 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you really want to watch somebody that the Eagles could have had playing for either of those two teams in the division? I certainly don't want to. That's going to suck. Imagine for a second Justin Jefferson is the NFC East, and he's not with the Philadelphia Eagles. How's that going to feel? How hard would the Eagles be? How hard would the Cowboys, the Giants, or the Washington football team, how much harder would they be laughing than the Minnesota Vikings when the Vikings did laugh at the Eagles for passing on Justin Jefferson? If Dave Gettleman of the Giants was in his office, right, on Zoom doing the draft last year, and he saw that the Eagles passed on Justin Jefferson, how hard do you think Dave Gettleman would have left? How much harder do you think the Dallas Cowboy Jerry Jones would have left? And he was already smirking at the draft last year when he saw CeeDee Lamb was still available. Like, they didn't even meet with CeeDee Lamb because they didn't even think he'd be on the board at that point. And they were laughing. You know who wasn't laughing? The Eagles. You know who else wasn't laughing? Philadelphia Eagles fans. So let's just keep it simple, stupid here. All right, please. And when we talk to Brandon Lee Gowton coming up from Bleeding Green Nation, he's the guest for today. When we talk to him coming up in a couple of minutes here, he gets into this, and he gets into it well because he covers the Eagles so phenomenally for bleedinggreennation.com. But Brandon gets into the idea of KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Brandon and I very like-minded on this. If they stay, he's the guy that I see the Eagles being able to trade up a couple spots for or standing pat at 12 to be able to get Devonta Smith. That's the guy that I think is most likely to be a Philadelphia Eagle. And we let you hear from Sal Powell yesterday, who highlighted that from his ESPN studio, saying that that's the guy that they're locked in on. But if it was Sal Powell making the decision, he'd go with J.C. Horn. And I always tell you guys, whenever we talk about corners that early in the draft, I always shy away from it. And I always think if you're drafting for a need in the first round, you're already missing the boat. I think that's where you got to go after the guy that's going to be the most impactful player on your team, the guy that will be a starter from the get-go. And that, to me, and productive from the get-go. And whenever you're talking about a need and a need at corner, that's where you're talking about today's NFL, thinking, well, why am I going to invest in a position that the rest of the league, by rules, are already going to be diminishing the returns on my investment? So I think they will take corners in this draft. I think they will take defensive backs in general, including safeties, all that. But as of right now, going into tonight, the guy that I want to come out of the first round of the draft and be a Philadelphia Eagle is Devonta Smith. You're talking about a 4.2 speed type of guy, talking about hands of gold, talking about a great route runner, talking about a guy you can insert into a pro offense just like they had at Alabama right out of the gate and be on the same page already as your starting quarterback this year. And that would tell me that they are even more so invested in Jalen Hurts than what they led on to be, because they're getting him a weapon that's going to make him look pretty damn good for his first full year as a starting quarterback in the NFL, and obviously a starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's my take on the draft. I've told you all week about the big list. It's one name. And this is still, by the way, under the caveat of I'm still pissed off they traded away from 6 overall to go back to 12. But if Howie can somehow, here's the thing that some people I want to hold. Here's some mild optimism that I mentioned earlier. This thought is rattling around in my brain. If Howie can somehow move back into the top 10 at 9, if he thinks Devonta Smith is going to be off the board, and they don't give up a first-round pick that they acquired, and all they have to do is do the pick swap in the first round, Howie's a genius. If Howie can trade back, think about this. If Howie can go from the 6th overall pick to the 12th overall pick, acquire another first-round pick in that process, in that trade, and then get back into the top 9, let's say, and not have to surrender a first-round pick, that's a genius move. Oh, and they also have to hit on the player, and I think the player they hit on most would be Devonta Smith at that point. That would be genius. And I think even the biggest Howie hater on the planet would have to go, it's one for you, Howie. You got me there. I didn't see that coming. That's the only way I see Howie Roseman coming out of this smelling like roses. And if they just know that their guy's going to fall back to him at 12 and they are still able to get an impact player like Devonta Smith. So I'm still pissed they moved out of that first round out of the top 6 as of right now. I'm hoping Howie wows me in this draft coming up tonight in the first round. I still want Kyle Pitts. I still want Jamar Chase. Obviously, we know that's not happening. So we'll see what happens here at number 12. Look forward to seeing how all that plays out. We'll continue this conversation on the Philadelphia Eagles in the draft coming up with Brandon Lee Gowton coming up in just a second here. But I know one of the big stories, and it was hard to not mention this in the first 10 minutes of the program there. I really loved you guys know I love the sport of baseball, and I'm a dork when it comes to that. I know. I'm not for throwing at people. I know when it comes to bat flips. I know when it comes to home runs and a batter flips the bat, next guy up is usually getting plunked by the pitcher, right? I always thought that was just low-grade BS. Like, especially nowadays where you want some emotion in baseball in terms of a player being excited that they just hit a home run, whatever it might be. I hate the idea of a pitcher using a weapon in a fight. Basically, that's what it comes down to for me. You have a weapon, I don't. And if I go to the mound with my baseball bat because you hit me, maybe even in the face, I'm the crazy person. That's just how I handle things. But watching last night, Phillies won, which was great. They're in first place right now. They have the tiebreak with the Atlanta Braves, so good for the Phillies. But Bryce Harper took a 97-mile-per-hour pitch to his face yesterday in the 6th inning of their win over the Cardinals. It's a 4-game series, so you're going to face the Cardinals again today. Aaron Nola's on the hill, by the way, afternoon game. Bryce Harper took a 97-mile-per-hour pitch to the face. And with the way he walked off the field, I would have thought he would have stayed in the game. The pitcher, make sure I get his name right. Yeah, Genesis Cabrera is the guy that plunked him in the face. And then the very next batter, he hit Didi Gregorius in the ribs. Joe Girardi came out of the dugout after Didi Gregorius was hit and threw a temper tantrum, and rightfully so, to defend his players, which was a great job by Joe Girardi. You have to do this as a manager. Joe Girardi goes out there and is fuming. Long story short, Bryce Harper is okay. We'll let you hear from Bryce in just a second. We'll also let you see the play in just a second. And we'll also let you hear from Joe Girardi. But I couldn't believe what I was watching yesterday when that happened to two different batters and Genesis Cabrera stayed in the game. And Joe Girardi made the point afterwards, and we'll let you hear it straight from him. How is that protecting players? And here's the thing. Both benches get warned after Cabrera hits Didi Gregorius. Both are warned. The Phillies hadn't done anything, and both get warned. And I understand that's come to be common practice in Major League Baseball, but that's just dumb. How do you not handle that situation better if you're the umpiring crew? It was the easiest tailor-made decision to make. When you get a ball to the face, for instance, where's the warning then? And when you get a ball to the ribs of the very next batter, how come somebody isn't thrown out of the game? Joe Girardi's point was, forget about whether or not he did it with intent. Let's look at the fact that this guy did it. He missed the plate by 3-4 feet, whatever it was, and crushed a batter in the face, crushed a batter in the ribs, and he's still in the game. I love what Girardi did yesterday in terms of running out there and arguing his player's case and how fuming he was. Even if you haven't seen it, he threw the umpire out of the game. He threw Cabrera out of the game. He was throwing people out of the game, and it was incredible. But credit to Joe Girardi for showing fight and showing that he wants to defend his players. Credit for the Phillies for fighting in that game as well. Got a big home run from Brad Miller in that game. Another one in this series from Brad Miller, so that was great to see. Phillies got the win. They're in first place. But without further ado, if you haven't seen this footage yet, folks, here is from the pitcher's vantage point, Bryce Harper in the sixth inning taking the pitch. Take a look at this.
Finished that rookie year with a 270. Oh, man, hit him right in the face.
That was his face. One more time.
Finished that rookie year with a 270. Oh.
It makes it sound like it hit his helmet, only it didn't hit his helmet. Here it is in slow-mo.
Oh, boy.
One more time.
Oh, boy.
That does not make you feel good. 97 miles per hour. Bryce Harper himself took to social media after the game to just let everybody know he was okay. He took a video. Here's Bryce. Take a look. It doesn't look like there's that much damage to Bryce's beautiful face. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's fine. He looks okay. Yeah, that's no problem, right? Sorry, I couldn't resist. A little sloth from Goonies action there. That's for the older people that my man Matt likes to hit me up on YouTube with. In all seriousness, here's Bryce Harper after the game.
What up, everybody? Bryce Harper here. Everything feels good. Everything came back good. CT, all that kind of stuff. So, face is still there. So, we're all good. See you guys soon.
His face has to be made of steel. Like, how do you not at least have Rawlings on the face or the stitches of the baseball on the face? How do you take a 97-mile-per-hour fastball off your face? And after the game, you're like, yeah, I'm still handsome. You're welcome. Like, how do you there's no more. Now, it'll probably be black and blue as all hell tomorrow and the next day in quite some time. But he was fine. CT scan was fine. He's good to go. After the game, Joe Girardi said he was going to get checked out. It looks like everything's checked out just fine. I love the era. By the way, this is why I love the era of social media, is because the player can just go ahead and release that he's okay after something happens in the game. Joe Girardi broke down what made him so pissed off after the game. Here's Joe.
Not to say nothing to him. I was motioned that he should be thrown out, right? I understand why they give the warnings, right? I understand they don't want things to escalate. They don't want people to get hit. But if a guy hits a guy in the face and a guy in the ribs with two pitches, he's got to go, right? If you're really protecting the players, obviously he doesn't have command. He's got to go. What if I got another lefty up? I mean, now I got a shortstop that probably might have to have imaging on his ribs. And you're going to let him stay in the game? Is it because of the 3-batter minimum? I don't know. He's got to go.
If you're a manager, and you don't do what Joe Girardi did yesterday, you're a bad manager. And I know the Cardinals, and you're probably thinking the same thing if you're with the Cardinals. The Cardinals coaching staff is yelling over at Joe Girardi, like, he didn't do it on purpose. Basically, calm down, Joe, get out of here. And Joe's point, again, wasn't the fact that Cabrera did it on purpose. Joe's point was that you can't protect the players with a guy that is missing the plate by 4 feet. Like, you can't tell me that you're actually going to protect the players if it's all about player safety and all that. You can't tell me that that's going into the factoring into your decision if you're allowing Genesis Cabrera to continue to pitch. And when they go out today for this game, 1:15 game time this afternoon against the Cardinals to wrap up the 4-game series again with Nola pitching, both teams are going to be warned when the lineup cards are exchanged. I still don't get, like, last night, it's so early in the season. It's not like you're in some playoff race right now. I don't get how nobody from the Phillies responded. I think Kinsler was on the mound in that bottom of the 6th inning, and he did nothing. He went away from, I think it was Paul Goldschmidt at the plate. He pitched away from him, not inside, away from him. Not even a little, like, if you even see that ball coming into the inside corner of the plate, you got to be thinking, if you're Goldschmidt, turn the back to this one, be safe. But when you're watching the rest of the game, the only person that showed any emotion was Coonrod. I mean, other than Joe Girardi. The only player that showed the emotion was Coonrod, who pitched the 8th inning, I think it was, or 7th inning, and he was yelling over at the Cardinals. Like, yeah, man, put that quarter in the machine. Let's get the party started. You got to defend your players. I do believe to a certain extent you have to allow the players to police themselves, because those are the guys that are on the field. Those guys are fighting every day for this sport and fighting every day to win. Those are the guys that have to, and also they understand context better than everybody because they're literally in it. For umpires to take that away, for players not to try to take advantage of that, I think is weak. But I give credit to the Phillies for this. As a baseball team, they fought to win that game last night. They're a first-place squad right now at 500 in the NL East, which is amazing just to say that sentence and have it be true. But I don't expect much from the Phillies today, to be honest with you. Because, like, what are you going to do? You're going to have Aaron Nola? Like, look, Aaron Nola would show me a lot if he went out and just plunked the first hitter today. I mean, I think he'd get thrown out of the game almost immediately, and I don't really want Aaron Nola to not pitch, and then you have to go to your bullpen. Like, that's the thing. If the Phillies bullpen had been pitching phenomenally well, and they pitched well yesterday. Yesterday was basically a bullpen game with Vince Velasquez playing for you. But if the Phillies are going to come out today and hit somebody, I would be surprised. It might happen in the later innings when the bullpen actually does come in. But I would have to see the Phillies up 10 runs, whatever it might be, have a very comfortable lead late in this game, and that's when you might see a retaliation from the Phillies. That's when I would expect a retaliation from the Phillies. But like right now, I don't expect them to have Aaron Nola come out and in the first inning beam somebody. I don't see that happening. I think the Phillies want to make sure that they can get 6, 7, maybe even 8 innings out of Aaron Nola. Hell, why not another complete game shutout for Aaron Nola? So I don't, and if he does hit anybody, he'll be thrown out of the game, and then you got back-to-back bullpen games. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to back off of that one. Coming up, we got Brandon Lee Gowton joining the show from Bleeding Green Nation to talk more about the NFL draft. First round of the draft today. Now, I'm going to get to this a little bit later in our social media, our morning rush, our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine. And the question is, how do you best describe your emotions going into tonight? There's a couple of options for you, and I want you to ponder these as the show goes on. Are you feeling how he's going to impress us? Are you confident that that's going to happen? Are you feeling like right now, going into this draft tonight, you're mildly optimistic, like myself? Are you thinking you're still stuck, like I was for so long, about the Eagles trading back from 6? And here's the thing, and it's one of those things that didn't dawn on me until, last option, we're doomed. I tweeted that out last night, so go ahead and feel free to vote on that. I'm in the mildly optimistic crowd, but here's something I didn't really realize until I was like really jumping into it last night in terms of, wow, the draft is tomorrow and dissecting it in the next level, I guess. But like, you have wasted not just tanking that last game of the season by having to put Nate Sudfeld in the game, but of being the worst team in the worst division in the NFL. You forfeited your right to the 6th overall pick to move behind 2 other dreadful teams in your own division by moving back to 12 to be behind the Cowboys and the Giants. Like how dumb is that? Like, you don't even get the reward. Like, you don't even get the reward. Like, Like I shouldn't even say reward as much as it is compensation. Hey, you were pretty god-awful this year, so here's the 6th overall pick. No thanks. We're going to go ahead and jump behind the teams that we were worse than anyway this year. But we'll get a first-round pick wherever that might fall next year. Cool. Like, I know that might sound obvious, but when you're really going through the draft process and you're looking at players that are going to be available at 6, and you see that the first 4 teams and the 4 teams basically came out and told you there was a slew of, 5 guys they could see going in the top 5 picks, first 5 picks as quarterbacks. And that just makes you think, oh, well, if that actually does happen, then Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase are yours. It's that easy. Just by staying at 6. Those kind of game-breaking talent is right there. No, thanks. We're going to move behind the Cowboys and the Giants, and we're going to pick at 12. Thanks. Good times. But going into tonight's draft, I'm trying to be somewhat optimistic. Mildly optimistic is the way I put it, and that's the way I voted on my own poll last night because I'm not shying away from anything, folks. I look at Howie Roseman, I look at tonight's draft, and I think if there's enough people talking about, enough reports out there talking about Howie potentially moving up and being aggressive, that's at least a good sign to show me. And it's nothing he hasn't done in the past. We mentioned Andre Dillard. He was aggressive, moved up, got the guy he wanted. Doesn't look like that's necessarily going to work out considering Jordan Mailata is probably going to be your starting left tackle to start the season or going into training camp at least. But right now you have a situation where I think the Eagles definitely have their number one target. And if they have an opportunity to move ahead of the Cowboys and make a trade to do that, they're going to do it. And I'm hoping that guy that would be worth moving up to get would be Devonta Smith. And as I laid out for you to start the show, the way the Eagles look fantastic on all this is that they move ahead of the Cowboys and the Giants. They get into the top 10 again. They take a game-breaking wide receiver that I believe Devonta Smith can be. And then they still have that first-round pick next year. That would make me happy because you're getting something in the NFL. You're getting something on your team that the NFL covets. And that's obviously a game-breaking wide receiver, and that's what I believe Devonta Smith can be at the NFL level. So we'll see how that plays out. Went through the first 25 minutes of the show. Didn't even mention the Sixers yet. When you got a big thing that happened in last night's baseball game with Bryce Harper, and you got the NFL draft, I think you understand that other things are going to get pushed back. Plus, if you the Sixers went out there last night and did exactly what they were supposed to do. They went out there last night and they blew the Hawks out of the sky last night. They dominated really from Jump Street. You saw George Hill get involved with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They were on the floor at the same time. Loved seeing that. You saw Matisse Thybulle get a little angry towards the end of that basketball game, which was great to see a little bit of emotion there as well. But overall, the Sixers went out there and did exactly what they were supposed to do. They dominated. Now, hopefully, they take both these games. They got the Hawks again tomorrow night in South Philly. Take both these games. They're now one game out of first place. The Nets did not play last night, so they're now one game out of first place in the Eastern Conference. Hopefully, as they, I believe, had a game in hand going into last night against the Nets, the Sixers will be able to take over that top seed in the Eastern Conference within the next week. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that. And remember, they have the tiebreak with the Nets, so that certainly helps their situation there. Joel Embiid was great last night. He even got a break towards the end. Ben Simmons was very aggressive last night. That was great to see. Basically, no complaints about last night's game. And how about this? They clinch a playoff spot. They're the third team in the NBA this year to now clinch a playoff spot. And Doc Rivers wasn't even aware of that. Before the game, he was asked by the media about, hey, you win, you can clinch tonight. What goes through your mind on that? And Doc Rivers' response was great. It was, nothing. Nothing really goes through my head on that. I expect it to be a playoff team. It's now a matter of winning in the playoffs. That's what we have to be focused on now. So credit to Doc Rivers for having the right mindset going into last night's game, and I think a lot of people would match that same energy. Without further ado, before we get to Brandon, we're going to talk about Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Do what I do. Trust Steven Singer for Mother's Day. Mother's Day almost here. Steven's got your back with a brand new rose color, Sunshine Yellow. This new Sunshine Rose is a brilliant shade of yellow that dazzles and sparkles. It is just gorgeous. His famous gold dip roses, real roses dipped in 24-karat gold that last a lifetime. Steven is always in business, and we know, especially over this past year, just how important love is. Steven wants to make sure that everyone is feeling good on Mother's Day, and Steven wants to make sure as many people as possible in the Delaware Valley are feeling good. Steven Singer, in order to do that and accomplish that goal, and not just giving you a great rose, but Steven's also taking a portion of the proceeds made from these beautiful Mother's Day Sunshine Roses. He has taken a portion of those proceeds to buy food from local restaurants And then in turn, thank our healthcare heroes that have helped us out so greatly during the pandemic. That includes our nurses, our doctors, first responders, hospital heroes in general. So Steven's going to basically solving a couple of problems here. He's helping solve a couple of problems, at least, in buying food from local restaurants, thanking the hospital workers with that, and you're also getting a gold dip rose for Mom on Mother's Day. It's a win-win-win, folks, and that's what Steven Singer is doing. Go to IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Send a Sunshine Gold Dip Rose. Don't wait any longer. Order now with free shipping and receive it in time for Mother's Day. Like I said, it's a win-win-win. They come with a lifetime guarantee, free personalized gift message, fast and free shipping in time for Mother's Day. So right now, go to IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. The other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia. Take advantage every day. The perfect price at Steven Singer Jewelers. IHateStevenSinger.com. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of all things going on in the NFL draft. Without further ado, let's talk to my good friend Brandon Lee Gowton of Bleeding Green Nation to walk us through all the crazy things that the Eagles could have coming up tonight in the first round of the NFL draft and for the 7 rounds of the NFL draft. Let's join in. Let's bring in Brandon Lee Gowton right now and have some football conversation. And joining us now on the Zatos Investments guest line, a great Eagles writer from Bleeding Green Nation, Brandon Lee Gowton joins the show. What's up, BLG?
Farzy, glad to be here with you, buddy.
Well, it's great to have you. And the minute I saw this tweet, I think it was last week, April 3rd, I was like, I got to have this guy on. I got to go to BLG during draft week, first and foremost, always. But when we're on the same page, my friend, check this out. Draft Devonta Smith. I'm like, well, now it's a damn lock. Now I got to talk to Brandon. Brandon, why is it that people are starting to get scared of drafting the reigning Heisman Trophy champion?
No good reasons, as far as I can tell, really. I think people are looking at, he's 166 pounds. So what? Like, what about his weight has manifested as a concern is my point. Like, people say he's too small. He's not going to hold up. Guess what? He didn't get hurt in college, so he doesn't have durability issues. Oh, he can't get off press coverage in the NFL. This guy ranked top 5 in yards per route run against press coverage in 2019 and 2020. So, like, I just don't see these weaknesses as real ones. And, like, just don't overthink it, guys. Like, this is the Heisman winner. This is a guy with, like, 24 touchdowns last year. He dominated the SEC. He shined the brightest out of Jerry Jeudy, out of Henry Ruggs, out of Jalen Waddle. Like, what isn't there to love here?
No, I couldn't agree more. And even in your article, I believe you point out, keep it simple, stupid, the old KISS. You keep it simple, stupid for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I remember making this comparison. Now, Jamar Chase is a stud and all that, and that goes without saying. But I just remembered when the first kind of mock drafts came out, maybe 2 months ago, like the first like real ones, if you will, like when things were getting real after the Super Bowl. And I remember Jamar Chase was ahead of Devonta Smith in somebody's mock draft. I think Jamar Chase was at 6 and Devonta Smith was going at 7 in this particular draft. Again, this was about 2-3 months ago. And I remember thinking, of course, that's what would happen. The Eagles would pass on the guy that would probably make it the easiest, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, to go for a guy that was out last year. But now looking back at it, obviously Jamar Chase is the stud, but Devonta Smith still, I think, is going to have a very productive NFL career.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of Justin Jefferson, really. I mean, I don't think they're the same exact kind of player, and I think there were things about Justin Jefferson that made him an even better prospect in terms of he tested better athletically, just size, obviously, more of a prototypical NFL receiver, not 166 pounds. But I just feel like it's that kind of level of, like, just don't overthink it, Eagles. Like you did last year. Everyone said, Eagles, take Justin Jefferson. Like, that was such a prominent, easy decision for them to do, and they messed it up. They thought they knew better. That's what bothers me with that pick the most, Mark. Is not that, like, you make a bad pick. That happens in the NFL draft. Sometimes you go into it, maybe you take a player who, like, it looks like they're going to be awesome. Like, maybe not the best comparison, but let's say Markel Fultz. Like, a lot of people wanted the Sixers to trade up for Markel Fultz. They thought that was the right move. It didn't work out for reasons that maybe you couldn't have even foreseen. I don't know. That's a whole other story. But point being, sometimes things happen. But sometimes you make your own bad luck too. And the Eagles clearly did that with Jalen Reagor. They thought they knew better, even though Howie Roseman has never successfully drafted and developed their wide receiver. The only wide receiver he's ever drafted that they've signed to an extension is Riley Cooper. Woof. So I just don't get why they would have the confidence that they know better than everyone else.
Well, and again, you go back to the video of Mike Zimmer and everybody else with the Minnesota Vikings smiling ear to ear. Like the one goal you should have as a GM is don't get laughed at in the first round, and that's exactly what happened to Howie Roseman and the Eagles.
It's pathetic. Like the Vikings didn't even take like a second to think about it. They were laughing at the Eagles when that pick was made. It wasn't even like, okay, let's entertain trade offers. Let's see what we have. Let's check our board. It's like, Justin Jefferson is here. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we're going to take him. Rick Spielman is like literally laughing about it. He's like, I can't believe the Eagles made that pick. So yeah, that hurts. And the Vikings just recently tweeted that out. So I hope the Eagles have that in mind going into this draft.
Oh, you know what? That would only make them complicated further. It's like, no. Now we got to show the Vikings that we're smarter than that. It's like, no, you're not. Just keep it as simple as possible, as you pointed out on bleedinggreennation.com. Now, how about this? The Eagles have been tied through multiple reports to really both Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. Why would you go Smith over Waddle?
I think it comes down to like the Justin Jefferson thing. Like I was saying, I just have this supreme level of confidence. This guy is going to succeed in the NFL.
If I'm not laughing, I'm crying, Brandon. If I'm not laughing right now, I'm crying. So I think everyone understands now. If we were in the room with Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and Andy Weidel and those guys, we would be like, hey, all right, Devonta Smith, take him. Will the Eagles actually do it? If he's there, would they take him? And also, second part of that question, who do you think the Eagles really want in this draft?
Yeah, so I think they might not, just from the standpoint of the Eagles are very analytically inclined, as we know, which I think is good in general if they're down at Citizens Bank Park at Phillies games. And I feel like they can almost make a pick and be like, okay, this is what you guys wanted, so we're going to make this pick. And then if it's wrong, well, you wanted it too, so you can't kill us as much as you are for everything else we did. In terms of who I think they are or want to get, I really don't have the best pulse this year. Like I feel like usually I have a better handle on who it is. We're hearing so many things. We're hearing as of this evening they want to trade up for Jalen Waddle. I tend to think not. I tend to think more they're either going to sit there or move back. I really hope they get Smith. I think cornerback J.C. Horn, I think that could be a realistic option. The cynical part of me thinks they're going to take Kwity Paye because they always take a lineman. It's what they do. It's play the hits. 7 out of 9 first-round picks that Howie Roseman has done have been linemen. So I'm all over on it. I have not really locked in terms of who I think it's going to be yet.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I just, and especially once they traded back from 6, I just thought, what are you doing? Like, stay in the idiot-proof zone. Please, stay in the top 6 at least. Well, at least what's supposed to be idiot-proof. But when you start talking about corner, and I get it, whether it's Surtain, whether it's Horn, like you mentioned, I have such a caution to draft cornerbacks that high simply because it always seems like the rules in the NFL are going against helping corners. So why would I want to take somebody that high and invest that high a draft pick? And is that too outlandish to think about the modern day?
They've signed Anthony Harris. They've signed Eric Wilson. What have they done offensively? They re-signed Jordan Howard for the third time, and they overpaid Joe Flacco, and that's it. So, give me some juice. I know, look, they're not competing this year. They're not all in on this year. It's not like everything is realistically going to be fixed through this draft. But give me some hope on offense. Give someone for Jalen Hurts to work with here. I want offense at number 12.
How much do you think Jalen Hurts is right now? How much do you think he is their choice? And how much do you think they're just thinking, we'll give him a shot this year and see how he does? Are they looking at him as a legit contender to be the franchise quarterback going forward?
I don't think so. I think they feel like they can go into this season with him and give him a shot and see what he has. I think they definitely like him to some extent. I mean, they took him with a second-round pick. You better.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, what are you doing? And I think he has all the intangibles. That much we know. Like the character, all that stuff, which was lacking, I think, with Carson Wentz, unfortunately, and what led to Carson's downfall here. Jalen Hurts has that. And I really do believe he deserves a chance, especially for this team's timeline. Again, not competing to win this year. Why not put Jalen out? How he said it. He said, what? Flexibility creates opportunity. That's the quote.
Yeah, I thought it was right up there with a lot of the stuff that we heard from Sam Hinkie back in the day, as a matter of fact. When it comes to Howie, and it really comes to the cost, because of these reports that are out there, that they're being aggressive, they're working the phone lines and all that stuff. If they were to move up, say, just from 12 to 9 to get into the top 10 again, do you think they would have to give up an additional first-round pick, or would they just get away with the first-round pick swap, essentially, and then maybe Zach Ertz, maybe a second-round pick, maybe a third-round pick? Do you think it would cost them another first-round pick?
I don't see them giving up that first round pick. I think, moving down, I think they want as many. I think they'd rather acquire another one before give up one.
Yeah.
I think they're hoarding those picks, and I don't think it would to go from 12 to 9. You look at the draft pick value chart, which you can only take it for so much because you have to consider the context. You have to consider the actual competition for that pick in terms of other teams trying to trade up, with the market price as it is, not just this arbitrary chart that we all go by. But if you just go by that chart for context purposes, it's a third round pick. It's actually a late third round pick, and the Eagles have one of those. They have 2 third round picks. So maybe if the Eagles really love a guy there at number 9, and it looks like the Broncos, I think, could be a trade down partner, then they give up a third round pick, and maybe they give up, they have 3 6 2 or 2 7, so maybe they give up one of those 2 to kind of sweeten the deal, and they can move up. I don't think they should do that because they're in a spot where they should be not having that much confidence in their evaluations, that they definitely know what they're doing. Kind of like I just said with Jalen Reagor earlier, they should be in a spot where, if anything, they should be looking to acquire more picks because this roster has a lot of work to do. It's not one player away. I mean, they need to get that guy. They need to hit on someone. And I guess that's the argument, moving up a little bit, and you feel strongly that you can do that. But I would prefer to move down before I would move up.
All right, Brendan Lee Gowton joining us here from Bleeding Green Nation. You said rebuild with the Eagles right now. So are Eagles fans to expect, let's just say they even have a mediocre draft? No one really blows us away, but just a decent draft. Are you expecting the Eagles to have another 4-win type season? Are you expecting the Eagles to have maybe a 6-win season? What are you expecting from the Birds right now in the upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean, you look at their schedule. By strength of schedule, it's like the easiest schedule in the league. So maybe I feel like in my mind, I've been pretty negative about them, as a lot of people I'm sure would point out, been pretty bearish on them. So maybe I feel like because of that, though, I should be expecting a little bit more, but I still think this is a team that tops out at like 7 wins. I mean, look who they beat last year. Like you're talking about like Ben DiNucci, you're talking about like Nick Mullins, they were a terrible team last year, truly terrible team. They were the worst team in the worst division, one of the worst divisions ever. So this is a really bad roster. And what did they do this offseason to get that much better? And, maybe they nailed the draft and that helps make things better. I think there's a chance that Jalen Hurts could take a step in year 2. I think there's a chance the new coaching staff could come in, give this team some energy. Maybe the coaching will be better, the better instructors in terms of getting more out of young players and developing players. Like that all seems like kind of best case scenario to me. And even if it is, I just don't think there's a super high ceiling for this team. The way I look about the Jalen Hurts thing specifically is like, I think you have to include him if you're talking about conversation for one of the very worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL next year. And that's not me saying I hate Jalen Hurts or I think he's going to fall on his face, but like, I think he's in that range because there is a scenario where he does struggle a lot because let's face it, he didn't look very good at the end of last year, even though he did show promise. So I just don't have high hopes for this team this year.
All right, yeah, I'm kind of right along there with you, but it all depends on Jalen Hurts. Maybe he is a lot better than what we saw last year. Maybe another year of the offseason will help him know the playbook better and not have to be so improvisational as a quarterback. Two more for you. Zach Ertz, when Mr. Irrelevant is taken at the end of the first round or 7th round, when Mr. Irrelevant is taken at the end of the 7th round, will Zach Ertz still be a Philadelphia Eagle?
Sounds apparently not. Adam Kaplan is saying that he's definitely going to be off the roster by the end of the draft. And I think the trade that kind of realistically makes sense in terms of where his value is at, because let's face it, it's not high. Because if it was, the Eagles would have already made a deal by now. He wouldn't be on the team anymore. I think it's very clear that he's going to be moved. And I think in what you're looking at, and this isn't really exciting to say, but I think you're looking at the Eagles pick in the 4th round at 123 overall. I think that they can move up earlier on day 3. And that's significant because let's say day 2 ends, round 3 ends, and the Eagles are like, wow, this player's still on the board here. But, there's a couple picks to go before we pick at 123. Why don't we trade Ertz and that 4th round pick to kind of move up whatever many spots and kind of get that guy that we really like who's still on the board? I know that's not going to be much in return, but again, I think Ertz's value, if you're trading him straight up, is only maybe a 6th, a 5th right now. So I think if you can use him to move up at some point, I think that was probably your ideal, realistic, best case scenario.
All right, Brandon, I've really enjoyed the different responses I've got to this question from every Eagles reporter, writer, whoever it might be, columnist that I've had on the show so far. What are your impressions of Nick Sirianni?
Okay. I feel like Nick Sirianni, some of the criticism he's gotten is not fair in the sense that it's like people are jaded because of how much mistrust, whatever you want to say, in Howie Roseman in this front office, which is fair entirely. But I feel like that's being projected a little bit onto Nick Sirianni unfairly. So I think what Nick Sirianni has done so far has shown some energy, which is nice for a team that's so lifeless and boring in a lot of ways and juiceless. So I will give him credit for that. My only concern is that he can't be like that all the time. I think it's authentic. I think it's who he is, but I just don't think a team is going to respond to that all year long. And I almost wonder sometimes if he truly knows what he's in for, because I think about how Doug Peterson, came in here wide-eyed and had a lot of, energy maybe from the start, and then kind of just got worn down by the end. So I feel kind of sad if that's going to happen to him. But I'm willing to give him a chance.
So am I. And I even said this yesterday when we had Ruben Frank on the show, but my feeling on Nick Sirianni is that I'm not going to make fun of him, but I am going to have fun with him. Like, let's put it that way. Like, the press conferences have been interesting, but I'm still holding out hope that he can command a locker room. And from some players that he had while he was with the Indianapolis Colts, he can certainly do that when he's in his, as I like to put it, when he's in his natural habitat, which is definitely not a microphone in front of him. He is supposed to be a little bit of a different guy. Still same energy, but a lot more of a commanding presence. Let's put it that way. I want to ask you our Twitter question today. It's brought to us by our good friends at Steak and Main. It's our social media check-in. I think I know your answer here, but which best describes your mood really going into the NFL draft as it pertains to the Eagles? Howie's going to impress us, mildly optimistic, trading back was dumb, or we're doomed? Which best describes your feeling going into the draft, the first round of the draft?
I voted in this poll, and actually on Twitter, and I voted for we're doomed. Not because I think it's impossible that there is hope for this team, but to me, the onus is on them to prove us wrong, to prove otherwise. Like the stat, I think Ruben Frank put it out there, was 2 out of 36 Howie Roseman draft picks since he came back to power in 2016 have started 16 games for this team. Like we all know it. We all know this team hasn't drafted well. So why am I just going into the draft expecting they're going to do it? Why am I just thinking that there isn't going to be another Justin Jefferson, another DK Metcalf that I'm going to have to watch play for another team? And maybe like nightmare scenario, CeeDee Lamb happened last year. Now the Cowboys and the Giants are picking right before the Eagles pick. Let's say like Devonta Smith ends up as a Giant. Like that's going to be crushing. I know it's tough, but that's where I'm at.
Brandon Lee Gowton, Bleeding Green Nation. Great talking to you again, man. Seriously, keep the great content coming, obviously, with Bleeding Green Nation. What's your draft coverage look like? Can we promote it? What do you got going on?
Sure. So obviously all of the good Eagles BGN articles on bleedinggreennation.com, Bleeding Green Nation podcast feed, where our podcasts are at, SB Nation NFL show for our national coverage that we have going on, streaming live on Twitter and Facebook, SB Nation. And really that's it. It's going to be grind. It's going to be a lot of work. I'm on Twitter as well, obviously at Brandon Gowton, and it's going to be fun.
The Sixers making it to the finals this year?
Yes.
I got you to be optimistic about something. No, was not my goal, but I think you and I are on the same page there as well. Brandon, great catching up with you. Thanks so much for being on the show and joining us here on the Zatos Investments guest line.
Thanks, Marc.
Always a pleasure talking to Brandon Lee Gowton. Make sure you check out his stuff once again at bleedinggreennation.com to fill you in on all things when it comes to the NFL draft. But I do want to tell you about our friends also at PHLSportsNation.com. That's right, PHLSportsNation.com. Over at Philadelphia Sports Nation, it's a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PhiladelphiaSportsNation.com, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. And speaking of fan experiences, why not make some money off being a fan with DraftKings? That's right, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. They are the leader in daily fantasy sports, and they're adding a thrilling component this year with the NFL draft coming up here. They're offering a free-to-enter draft pool this Thursday. That's today. $50,000 in prizes up for grabs. DraftKings, free-to-play pools are easy to play. Just download the DraftKings app, go to pools, and choose from a wide variety of free contests for an opportunity to win cash prizes. All you have to do is answer a handful of questions around what you think is going to happen in tonight's draft, and DraftKings will hook you up with some great bets. DraftKings will be hosting a draft night specific pool for questions ranging from who will be picked before whom, and also it'll go all the way to the later rounds in this. It's pretty incredible. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy for the free draft pool with $50,000 in prizes up for grabs. That's promo code Farzy to get a free shot at $50,000 in total prizes only at DraftKings. And how about our friends at Steak and Maine in Northeast Maryland? My man Tony Cavada, great place. You got to check it out. Steak and Maine, fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Whether you dine in a more upscale steakhouse or a casual bar and patio, you'll enjoy the highest quality of prime meats, fresh seafood, world-class oyster bar, and freshly prepared sushi. All that and an extensive wine list, which includes their own Cavada Cellars wines. From their family to your family, right to the table. Open every day for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Steak and Maine in Northeast Maryland, voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. So, you know they got to be good. Absolutely. Check it out for yourself, steakandmaine.com. In the heart of Northeast Maryland. This is a fun app. We've been telling you about it since we started the show almost 3 months ago now, and that is the FanUp app. If you want to be a big baller in the world of sports, you got to download the FanUp app. Go to the App Store, download the FanUp app, get 2,000 bonus points right out of the gate. You can create challenges and different types of bets with your friends on sports, social media. It basically puts the gentleman's bet in writing with friends. The days of playing fantasy sports alone are over, thanks to FanUp and all the great people on the app. You can squad up with your friends. You can win even more. You can rise on their leaderboard. All that available with the FanUp app. And you can also, by the way, it's the only place you can win brand prizes. They gave away a Louis Vuitton bag a couple of weeks ago. We gave away that Peloton I was telling you about a couple of weeks ago. It's a great time with the FanUp app, so take advantage of all they're offering. Once again, download the FanUp app in the App Store. Use promo code FANUP and get 2,000 bonus points. That's FanUp. May the best fan win. Now let's roll into our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine at steakandmaine.com. I decided to gauge the interest of some Philadelphia sports fans. Try to have some fun with you guys last night. And I asked this question. I mentioned it at the top of the show, but I asked this question. Which best describes your thoughts on the Eagles heading into the first round of the NFL draft? Here are your options. How he's going to impress us. There's 4 options. How he's going to impress us. Mildly optimistic. They traded back. That's dumb. So basically kind of lost interest. And then the 4th option, we're doomed. That was the feeling. The leader going away with it was at 55%. We're doomed. So that's fun. Not a lot of people optimistic, obviously, heading into the first round of the draft. After that, it was mildly optimistic. I'm going to go to some of the comments here. After that, it was, we traded back, so that was dumb, and you kind of lost interest. And then the other one was at 5%, Howie's going to impress us. So not a lot of people having confidence in Howie Roseman, as one would assume. Now, for this, I actually put, and you heard me say it earlier, mildly optimistic. I'm mildly optimistic, and the main reason for that, and I'll get to, I'll try to find my man's, one guy saying zero faith in Howie, so I get that. I think that's where we are. What is the right choice? I still think the right choice is Devonta Smith, as I mentioned. Somebody's asking me on here why I would actually be mildly optimistic. Well, I'll tell you why I'm going to be wildly optimistic. And that person asking me that question was Jim Haney. He says, mildly optimistic based off what, Mark? Can't be track record. And you're absolutely right. It's not track record. It's got nothing to do with track record as to why I'm mildly optimistic about the Eagles. It's just that there's been way too much smoke for there not to be a fire about the Eagles wanting to trade up in the draft. And if they want to trade up in the draft, that at least means that they're very much willing to do that. Also, let's forget about speculation for a second, and let's talk about a whole cold hard fact here. They have 11 picks. They're not making 11 draft selections in this NFL draft. That's not happening. What I believe they're going to do is they're going to package some of their later round picks. They're going to move up in the first round. And by later round, I mean not the first round. And what they're going to do is they're going to move up if they feel like they need to jump ahead of the Cowboys or jump ahead of the Giants and make sure they get the guy that they want. So that just shows me that they're very willing to do that. And they've made all the phone calls, multiple reports about them wanting to be aggressive if they have to be. That's what gives me some mild optimism. It's not even optimism. It's mild optimism. Like, let's not forget that word mild. There's just been way too much smoke for there not to be fire that they're actually going to be able to move up in this draft and actually make a good decision. See, that's the thing. It's fine to be aggressive. as long as they're being aggressive to do the right thing. Like they were aggressive to get Andre Dillard. They moved up a couple of spots to make sure they got him. As of right now, it hasn't looked like the good kind of aggressive. But if they feel like their guy's going to go to either the Cowboys or the Giants, I'm giving them at least enough credit to realize they got to move up and get the guy they want. And I'm hoping that guy is Devonta Smith. So mildly optimistic is the way I'm approaching this draft. Mildly. To continue our social media check-in and continue to follow some of the comments made right here. That person is not optimistic at all, and I get it. Here we go. Michael Burns is checking and saying, I was mildly optimistic. And then I had a vision of Laurie taking over the war room and insisting on drafting a long snapper from Brown. I see what you did there. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are as well. That I know a lot of people have that idea in their mind that Jeffrey Lurie is just going to push everybody aside, or if he doesn't do it, then Howie Roseman's going to do it. And the bottom line is they're just not going to get the guy that you want in this draft. My money is on Devonta Smith, as you heard me say with Brandon. If I am in that room, I am screaming if he's on the board there at 12. If he's on the board there and it looks like the Giants or the Cowboys, and the Eagles should know this because they should obviously know their opponent and know their market, then I'm trading up and I'm trying to get Devonta Smith as soon as humanly possible. That was our social media check-in brought to you by our great friends at Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Now it's time for our morning rush segment. It really has to do with one thing and one thing alone. Today's morning rush on the day of the draft is actually it has to do with everyone's anticipation leading up to tonight and how you kind of handle this anticipation. And some people, I know a lot of Eagles fans out there took to social media, not just with me, but just to vent their frustrations or kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, well, it's another draft day, so this is the worst day of Howie Roseman's career, or the worst 3 days of Howie Roseman's career, where he is not at all at his best, and people have concern about that. I'm not going to tell anyone to share my feeling of mild optimism, but I will lay out for you one more time the reason why I think some people are looking at Howie Roseman right now and thinking we're doomed. And that is because of the track record itself. That is because, as Ruben Frank told us yesterday, highlighted for us yesterday, you haven't drafted a Pro Bowler out of the first round since Jason Kelce. You haven't drafted a Pro Bowler since Carson Wentz, and that's like 1 in 5 years. That's not good. All these different reasons and all these different highlights, if you will, lowlights on Howie Roseman's track record is why we're so negative right now. Like trying to explain it to somebody who's not a Philadelphia Eagles fan, somebody who hasn't followed this team forever. It's like, did this guy win you a Super Bowl a couple of years ago? Like, yeah, that's great. But have you seen his track record since he has been the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles? Have you seen his track record? Super Bowl was great, but when it comes to drafting and this particular day, draft day, we're not exactly going to be optimistic about anything. So that's kind of how we feel right now about Howie. That was our morning rush, and it was brought to you by the great friends at Sky Motor Cars and SkyMotorcars.com. A car for every budget. Going to close it out with this. I told you 2 picks yesterday for big bets. This is our big bet segment brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Yesterday, I told you to hit on the Sixers, -8 going up against the Hawks. That obviously covered, so that was great to see. Actually, I saw right before game time, right before tip-off, went to 9.5 points for the Sixers to cover that, and they did still, so that's good. I got them at -8.5, so I won the bet on that. Cavaliers, despite a surge by the Cavs, they lost to the Magic, so they didn't cover the -2. They lost to the Magic last night, so I missed that bet for you, so hopefully you at least broke even. Tonight, I like the Nuggets -4.5 taking on the Toronto Raptors. Denver Nuggets are hosting that game. They're going off once again -4.5 against the Toronto Raptors. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be with you on social media throughout the draft tonight. So just remember, no matter what happens, I'm here for you. Like hopefully the Phillies will be there for Bryce Harper today at some point. I will be there for you when it comes to the draft. So I'll be talking to you guys on that. Jim Hyden produced the program. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. My name's Marc Farzetta here from the Steven Singer Studios on the Farzy Show. Have a great day. And once again, I'll be with you tonight. We'll all be together. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Go Birds.